right, guys. With me today, we have Mariners pitcher Travis Kuhn. Travis, how you doing today?
Pretty good, man. Excited to be here. Good to have some contact with some people. It's
Oh
nice.
yeah, it's been tough. We're almost out of it though. We're almost out of it. But once again, really appreciate you for doing this. Let's just get right into it. So, first question I have is, when did you really figure out that your main position was going to be a pitcher?
For me, most of my high school career, I was an outfielder. It wasn't until my senior year that pitching kind of really became a priority for me. Um, for the most part, I went through. I was a pretty good outfielder, top, but at the end of the day, the consistency was pretty bad. So I had a high school coach tell me like, "Hey, really, your only path where you're going to be able to play and see that consistency is probably going to be off the mound because you got a gift with your arm." So I got sent back down to JV my junior year to kind of figure out how to pitch and made my first varsity start basically my senior year. And from that point on, that was what I was rolling with. Kind of set down the bat, set down the pride.
I got you. Nice. All right. Who was your idol player growing up?
Growing up, when I was real young, I used to watch a lot of Angels games. That was kind of my hometown team, and I got to watch Vladdy towards the end of his career, Ken Griffey Jr. towards the end of his career, and Griffey would come down to Anaheim a lot and do some damage against us. So it was one of those things where uh, really wasn't a huge fan of him at the time because he was against my team, but at the same time, it was just I really appreciated watching him play. And but yeah, and then kind of evolving from that. Once I got into high school, I started looking at obviously one of the greatest players of all time. Just being able to watch him kind of grow up in his generation is awesome. And then watching other talented players, Chris Bryant. Once I got into college, he was a guy that went to my school a couple years before I was there, and really kind of made his impact at on campus. And yeah, just pretty much kind of didn't really have a pitcher that I looked up to. A lot of guys from a different perspective. Now it's almost you're kind of right there with them. So now you're looking at guys from a different perspective. You're looking at guys that are like competitors, um, more off the field stuff that has to do with it, less just this guy is a good player. And but yeah, so it's definitely a little different now.
All right. So besides being local to the area, because you grew up in Southern California, what other factors went into you choosing the University of San Diego, and what was your recruiting process kind of like?
It's pretty interesting. Like I said, I wasn't a varsity guy till my senior year. When I was a junior playing outfield, I had a couple D2 interests here and there, a couple D1 interests, but not nothing major. And it wasn't until I really got into pitching that I started to have more offers, started to have more interest. But even I wasn't a huge recruit. I was 85 to 88 for the most part. Been up to 90 a couple times in high school, but a lot of the schools that I was talking to, Oregon, UCR, Hawaii, those kind of schools where a lot necessarily a scholarship. And I went down to USD. The hitting coach at the time, Brad Marcelino. He's a guy that I really appreciate and look up to, and he's really pushed me a lot, and that was kind of one of the reasons that I went there. One of the main reasons is that he was there, and once I got to USD, that experience was awesome as well.
The next question I have is, in 2019, in your college career, you were virtually unhittable. I was looking up some stats, and I saw that batters were only hitting 182 against you when you came out in relief, and you only let up 2 homers in 48 innings. Did something change from 2018 to 2019 in your college career? Was there something different you did training, or was there a different perspective you looked at pitching? Anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, coming off my redshirt freshman year, I was looking for the most part, just wanted to compete, just wanted to play, and look to get in there at any time. And My sophomore year was pretty unsuccessful. I had a good record as far as when I came into games, we tended to win, but at the end of the day, it wasn't at all what I was. But we didn't make a regional, and we didn't have the success as a team that we wanted to. And basically, coming into my junior year, my redshirt sophomore year, I basically put aside my statistical numbers and just focused on like, hey, look, I want to be a guy that we can roll out there at least twice a weekend, that I can go get us some wins, get us push us past this kind of point where we've been for the last 5 years, where we've been just on the edge of the postseason. And sadly, that part didn't work out, but my numbers went up. And then a lot of the thing, I used to pitch a little more scared of walks. I've always had some command issues in the past, and that was something where I really just kind of put that aside. I said, okay, you're going to get strikeouts as well. You're going to get the big outs in the big situations. And I just kind of had the confidence that I knew I was going to be able to roll out there and compete even with my worst stuff. So, I mean, in those situations, I just looked at it as get myself in a good count and put guys away. It um, wasn't focused on walks, wasn't focused on not walking up the big hit. It was just I knew that if I went out there and competed, good things happen. And I owe a lot of that to the coaching staff at USD. They kind of pulled that out of me. And yeah, I think that was the biggest change.
All right. So after you had that great year, you were drafted in the 19th round by the Seattle Mariners. What was that feeling like, knowing that all that hard work that you had really paid off?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was the best day and the most stressful day of my life, to be honest with you. It was one of those days where, um, before the draft, you get all these questions, you get all these kind of answers from certain people, but you're not really getting exactly what you're looking for. And I didn't have an agent at the time. I still don't, and I was kind of going through the process on my own. So asking teams what to expect was super interesting, because a lot of the time you're going to get answers that aren't necessarily coming from the people making the decisions. Sometimes the people that are making the decisions are persuaded differently. Draft day is a mess, and it's unpredictable. You don't really know where to go. So for me, it was just I got a couple calls throughout the day, a couple big calls, couple small calls, couple offers here and there, and it was just I stuck with my number. And I actually thought the Mariners were passing on me, and I was really, really happy that they didn't. They were one of the teams that I really, really saw myself with and really saw myself going to. And I couldn't be happier with the opportunity they've given me. And it's just one of those things where, when you've been playing for 15 years and you've worked as hard as I know I have, and you're getting told no a lot along the way, getting a call that is finally a yes is something that I'm no, and it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but how was that process going through without an agent? Was it really difficult for you, or did you feel like it was kind of took a little stress off not having an agent and just doing all the decisions yourself?
I think both. I think for me, not having an agent gave me a lot of power, gave me kind of my own responsibility with the whole thing. Obviously didn't owe anybody money after it was all over. I mean, I went into it knowing that before the season started, there was a good chance I was going to be drafted. And with that in mind, I told myself I'm not going to. It wouldn't be fair to my team. It wouldn't be fair to my coaches. It wouldn't be fair to myself if I put all my focus all the time on the draft. I've seen guys do it in college. I've seen it eat them up. I've seen blow really bad seasons after it. So I just told myself from February on, as soon as I kind of put in my last questionnaire with the last team, it was I was done. I was going to have my meetings here and there, but at the end of the day, it was all about winning and competing and being with my brothers at the time. And that was really my only priority. And it wasn't until late May that when our season kind of came to an end, where I was sitting there with a whole lot of questions that still hadn't been answered, and like that part was pretty stressful. But I couldn't have told myself to handle it any other way. That was I was really happy with how I handled it. I'm really proud of who I am because of it. It was just I knew that my team needed me, and there was no point in focusing on something that ultimately is out of. But yeah, I mean, having an agent would have made a lot of things easier, would have made a lot of things harder. So I was
Mhm.
I was happy with how it went.
That's completely understandable. So, coming out of college, you were assigned to the Everett Aqua Sox, and you're now playing for the West Virginia Power. How was the transition going from college to pro ball? And was it difficult for you to just go from one team to the next? And do you think that'll be an issue for you coming up where you'd possibly spend a month with this team and then a couple months with this team?
Yeah, I mean the adjustment was big. I think the adjustment from college to pro ball, yes, there's a big talent jump because you're playing against the better team, the better guys from every team. But at the same time, it's still baseball. It's not as a pitcher. Hitters are gonna be a little more disciplined. They're gonna do some more damage if you give them something to do damage with. But I always looked at it as it's still baseball. I'm still just pitching. I'm still gonna compete, and that's kind of my personality. And I wasn't the talent jump wasn't at all kind of a concern for me. Um, the the adjustment in routine and the adjustment on and kind of being on your own in pro ball, you have a lot of coaches that are either fresh out of the game or really only there for your support. And if you ask questions, they'll answer them. But for the most part, you're kind of on your own with most of your program. Um, I was really fortunate to kind of learn my way uh, my redshirt freshman year in college, where I was more or less on my own with a lot of things, experimenting with a lot of things on my own, as far as mechanics and some different strength and recovery stuff that I did. So I was lucky enough to have a pretty good base going in. When it came to switching teams midseason, when I went over to West Virginia, it was the jump was big as far as um, in Everett immature hitters, not like emotionally, but like game wise, they're going to be swinging at different pitches. And once you get up to that next level, and beyond that, every level beyond that, hitters are going to become more disciplined. Your mistakes are going to be more flagrant, and that's basically the biggest jump. It's not so much a talent jump, in my opinion, but I'm sure once you get up to the higher levels, now there's a talent jump with that. And I'm looking forward to getting there. And I'm sure that that's something that I can look forward to in the near future. But it's just one of those things where I've never had a problem bonding with my teammates. I've never had a problem being a leader in a clubhouse that I'm not necessarily comfortable in. Um, so I just kind of took it at stride and said, you know what, if you, I think the biggest adjustment was just being able to get off a plane and pitch that day. That was when I got called up. I was on a plane until from 10 p.m. to noon, and we had a game at 6, and I pitched in it. And it was just one of those things where you gotta be adjustable. You got to be able to make things work, and I think that's the biggest adjustment. If you have a good headspace and you can pull together some quick relationships, so.
Do you have that person? What was I going to say? Do you have that person like going from college to pro ball that really kind of helped you out along the way, like a teammate or a specific coach or somebody like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple guys that I can think of off the top of my head. We had a guy, Bryson Brigman. He was with the Seattle Mariners for a while. Now he's with the Miami Marlins. He came out of USD. He was pretty quick to let me know that he had my back, and if I had any questions about the org, he would help me out. Actually, my coach in Everett, Luke Boyd, I had played with him 2 years prior in summer ball, and he pretty much pulled me aside the second I got in the clubhouse and told me like, "Hey, I got your back. Like, um, we're going through this together, and if you have any questions at all, like I'm here for you." And just having guys like that, and then on top of that, some of the big league guys that came down and getting into spring training. I look up to Dan Altavia a lot. Another kind of big, strong guy, not a big, tall, lanky guy, and he kind of let me reach out to him and let me know he has my back. And if I have any questions about anything, I can go to him. And just having leaders along in the clubhouse and the impact that those guys make on me and so many other guys is just, it makes the transition easier. It's a stressful time for everybody that gets that call and is finally in the clubhouse. And it's just knowing guys have your backs a huge, huge deal. So I try to do that for the younger guys as well.
All right. I heard you have a superstition before you go in to pitch. Can you explain kind of what your process is before you go and pitch?
I'm assuming it's the gummy bears.
Yes.
I've had this thing for a long time. You know, in high school, senior year, I hit 2 outings straight where I had a little bit of a tough time, and had some gummy bears before an outing. Did really well, and kind of followed me ever since then through college, through pro ball. At this point, I would consider it less a superstition and more of me getting my head right. It's just one of those things where, like a lot of things, I chew gum when I pitch. It's not necessarily I know I can pitch without chewing gum, but I also just know that it's just another thing that is telling my mind that, hey, this is time to compete. This is time to go. You're not messing around anymore. And I think that's like having those little things. Like some guys, it's you put your that determines how your day is going to be. And I've always looked at it as uh, superstitions are fragile. Having a routine is something that you can always fall back on. So
Do you just keep like gummy bears
yeah,
in the bullpen?
absolutely. Yeah, I've had times where I've called fans over, asked them to grab me a pack of gum. Some family members, hey, if you could swing by the game real quick and drop something off for me. I, I I tend to find my ways. Most of the time, I come pretty prepared. I have a pretty good setup that I keep stocked, but you always got to watch the uh, guys next to you asking for them too, because if you hand too many out, you're going to be out for the next game. So long 4 game series on the road, you don't want to run out. So
Hmm.
it's just one of those things. But
I guarantee if you ever make it to the majors, that's going to be a huge thing. Is
hey,
people are just going to be lining up to give you gummy bears.
absolutely.
Alright. So, what would you say is the most important pitch to your game? What's the pitch that, like, if you're in a 3-2 count, clutch situation, you're relying on this pitch to get you out of it?
I go to my slider a lot. It's I would be a little more refrained to say that, but every scouting report you're ever going to read on me is I use it, and um, I'm not really worried about people knowing that about me. I think it's something that it's good enough where you can know it's coming, and I'm gonna be able to do what I want with it. And it's just one of those pitches that it was the first pitch I ever learned. I've made very little adjustments to it since I learned it my senior year in high school, and I've pretty much thrown it with confidence any count since. Especially now, I've been working on it a lot this off season, as far as commanding it wherever I want in the zone, and having a couple different shapes to it, a couple different velocities to it. So tend to throw a pretty hard big slider, and that tends to be my go-to.
Okay. So, speaking of that and trying to keep training and stay in shape, how are you doing it during these times where gyms aren't available and you just kind of have to make do with what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I got really lucky. I have a decent property in Norco, California. I got a big shed in the backyard that I got my weight room in. I'm pretty reliant on strength when I pitch. I'm pretty reliant on strength for my confidence off the field. I like to move a lot of weight, so not having a gym kind of presented a big obstacle for me, and I took care of it. I went to the store, bought everything I could need. I was fortunate enough to be able to do so, and I have an old batting cage that I've turned into a mound. I built a mound with my dad, um, and now that's kind of where we're working at. We got a pretty good setup back there. I got a stalker radar, which helps me out, making sure I'm throwing what I need to be throwing when I need to be throwing it. Got all my plyos, got everything I need, so it's pretty nice.
All right. So, what player in the MLB right now would you look at and say, I want to be exactly like that in, let's say, 5 years' time?
Whew, that's a good question. Um, I mean, I've always had a hard time kind of comparing myself to big leaguers, uh, for the simple fact that I'm a lot different. But I'm a guy that's 5'10", 225. I've got my own kind of personality on the mound. I've got my own competitiveness on the mound. I look up to guys here and there. I like to see what guys are doing. But at the end of the day, I think I think I'm my own person. I think that should be really exciting for fans, myself, my family, and just knowing that I'm going to be able to get it done and be myself that's my biggest thing.
I got you. So you don't necessarily want to be compared to everyone. You just want to be the first Travis Kuhn.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, there's guys that I look at, but I mean, to put it really simply, you look at my mechanics, how I throw, what I throw, my personality on the mound, and you're pulling from so many guys. And um, a lot of the guys that I'm a cross-bodied, low arm slot kind of guy. A lot of the guys that throw five, and I think by with my frame and my ability, I think it's kind of presenting this kind of new style, new mentality, bringing along with me. And for good or bad, I think I'm going to be the first of mine, and I'm comfortable with that. So,
All right. So, kind of speaking of that, come this year, what can we see out of you? Do you believe there's going to be a jump like you did from your first year of college baseball to your second year? Do you feel that you're going to be able to have that jump again this year?
yeah, man, absolutely. I think I try to stay away from kind of the results kind of thing. I'm kind of keeping my head down, putting the work in, and I like to just look up when it's over and see where we're at. But I'm really happy with the work I've put in this off season. I'm really happy with the jumps I've made, velo, command, mechanically. I think I'm in a really good spot, and I mean, the longer the season takes to get going, the better I'm going to get, and I know that I can hold myself accountable to that. I'm in a really good space. Oop, sorry.
You're fine.
I'm in a really good space mentally. I'm itching to get going, and I think at the end of the day, I'm going to believe in my ability, believe in my confidence, and roll with it. So I would expect big things.
Okay. So, I know you have to go, but I have one last question for you. Say there's that high school kid that's watching this right now that is trying to make it to college, trying to make it D1, or that college kid that's trying to make it pro ball. What advice do you have from them knowing that you've been in their shoes?
I think it's really simple, man. When you feel like nobody else is believing in you, you got to make that statement and that confidence for yourself. There's been a lot of times I've been told no in my career. I had to transfer high schools because I was told I wasn't good enough to play at one. I had to change positions because I was told I wasn't a good enough competitor to do one. I was told I was cocky. I was told I didn't work hard. So I've kind of shaped those things into who I am now. Am I confident? Absolutely. Do I work hard? Absolutely. And I think that's one of these things where there that's what separates guys. It's not the talent. I could think of 20 guys that are more talented than me that never made it and never will make it. And just very simply, I think you can make a road for yourself. There's always a path, and some paths are really really hard. Some paths are really really easy. Some guys are fortunate. Some guys aren't. And to take advantage of your situation, whatever way the dice roll out to be, I think the most important thing is find something that makes you confident and stick with it. If baseball's a tough game, it breaks you down. So if you look at the guys that are really, really good and really, really consistent and can stay confident throughout a full season, a lot of the time it has nothing to do with baseball. And so find that for you and be yourself, and don't be afraid to tell a coach that you're going to believe in yourself and you're going to be able to make it. Because if you say it, you got to hold yourself accountable to it. And I mean, that's what I got.
All right. So that's all I got for today. Once again, huge thanks for doing this. Really means a lot to both me and
Absolutely.
Ari, who unfortunately couldn't be here. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, you got it. Appreciate you having me on.
Sometimes I